Mining. I know De Grey Mining very well. They're Western Australia gold explorer, but they're also a project developer. This is really important. They've got a very major new gold discovery over at Hemi, which is in the Pilbara. Come on up, Andy. It wasn't that long ago that everybody said, nah, you're not going to find gold in the Pilbara. Well, guess what? They've got 8.5 million ounces and growing. Please welcome Andy Beckwith. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I'm here to talk about De Grey Mining. It's actually 10.6 million ounces we have, of which Hemi is 8.5. So we're fortunate we do have lots of gold. Just listening to Rob, that puts us, if you bought De Grey shares, you're paying $130 an ounce. We plan to put out our PFS in the next quarter, where we'll put out reserves, and based on Rob's comments of $500 an ounce, there's a re-rating potential there, quite a significant one. We are having a few forward statements, so please take note of that before you leap and buy De Grey shares. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are operating on traditional lands, native title, in the Pilbara area. Our main custodians are the Garriara, so we respectfully thank them for allowing us to get on with it. Who is De Grey? So basically, we were a two-bit explorer 3 years ago, 4 cents. Now we hit a peak of $1.60. We're now sitting at about $1 with the latest share price. That values us at about 1.4 billion, and that is on the back of the Hemi discovery. We have a fairly significant institutional shareholding these days. In the last 2 years, that's been bolstered immensely, with about 60% in the top 20 shareholders and 71 in the top 50, so tightly held. Our major shareholder is DGO. They're currently under a takeover offer by Gold Road Resources to snavel up 14% of us. So we're on the eyes of some of the bigger companies, obviously, because of the Hemi discovery. You'll see the share price there. We've hit a peak of $1.60 not that long ago. We're sitting at about $1 now with the current market. So we're going to jump straight into why we've got Hemi. It is Australia's largest undeveloped gold deposit, we believe, in Australia. So we discovered this in late 2019. Nobody took any notice for about 3 months, so you could have bought us for 4 cents for 3 months. And then we rapidly grew that in the last 2.5 years to 8.5 million ounces. We put out that resource a couple of weeks ago. And our total of the whole project area is 10.6. And the reason for the big Hemi discovery and why it's grown so quickly, because it's a different style of mineralisation. It's an intrusion-related, large scale, and that's its benefit. So the Pilbara, as Kerry said, nobody believed there was gold in the Pilbara. There's been some more smaller discoveries, but no big ones like the Yilgarn. Phil's here with myself, our exploration and general manager. We believe there was the right rocks and the right structure and the right alteration. So about 6 years ago, we started on that adventure. We've been fortunate now to find Hemi, and the whole tide has turned. Everybody believes there's big gold deposits in the Pilbara now. We have a very large tenement package, and we believe there's plenty more to be found in that package. So the resource at Hemi, basically 8.5 million ounces at 1.2 grams. And the last 11 months has been about drilling out the infill drilling so we could get to reserves. So we've been bolstering the indicated portion on the left-hand side. So we have 5.8 at 1.3. It's based on a lot of drilling, nearly 300 kilometres of drilling. Most of that has been RC drilling, but a lot of it, and a substantial amount, almost a third of it, is diamond drilling, so it adds to the quality. Discovery cost of less than $10 an ounce, so when you're paying $130, that's after the appreciation, but hopefully we can bolster that again when we go to reserves. So the Malinor Project is a bigger project again. We already had 2.2 million ounces before the Hemi discovery, giving us a 10.6 million ounces at 1.3. So the Withnell Mining Centre is basically all the deposits west of Hemi, and the Wingina Mining Centre is all the deposits east of Hemi. So this is the Hemi Deposits. There's a cluster of deposits in the intrusions. The biggest one there is Brolga in the red. And I think the most important thing to realise here is the scale. You'll see the scale bars there, 3.5 kilometres across and 2 kilometres north-south. It's a very large system, and we've not reached the end of it. All the deposits remain open. Brolga itself remains open and down plunge, as does Eagle and Yukon, and the other three are essentially down dip. I want to explain why we've drilled it out so much. We've done a pit shell, so the resource is based on a depth of 370 metres, where we divide the resource into open pittable and underground. What we've tried to just demonstrate here is if we put a pit shell with basic parameters around it on a $2,500 gold price, we have quite a substantial resource still, but there's very little difference as we change the cut-off grade, and that's just the lower cut-off grade, so we make it tighter and tighter. So we go from 6.6 million ounces down to 5.7 with the various cut-offs. The most important part of that slide to me is the indicated portion. 85% of that is indicated. We can only use indicated for reserves in the PFS. So in the next quarter, when I talked about the change in value, they are the sorts of numbers you need to look at when you're trying to times it by hopefully that $500 an ounce that Rob was talking about. So this is just a quick diagram of where that indicated is in all of those deposits. The red being the most important, and the blue is just less drilled, wider space drilling. So Phil's been, over the last 11 months, had 16 rigs drilling the red areas. And now we're stepping out drilling into the blue areas again and extensions, and also out into the regional targets that you'll see shortly. So this slide is just to demonstrate how little drilling there is below 300 metres. These deposits are really only being drilled in the top 300 to 400 metres, and we're now going to start pushing deeper and expanding the resources at depth, but also along strike. There's very little drilling outside the deposits, and that 15 kilometre long corridor there is under-drilled, let alone our 150 kilometres in our regional tenements. So this is our regional tenements. Hemi's there in the central portion near that marble in the middle. Basically, all the red areas are targets that still to be drill tested. Plenty of pink targets still to be tested. They're the intrusion style targets that we believe are showing in the magnetic data. So lots of targets in the future. So we'll be drilling here for 20 years is my view. We're getting a few new drill holes into Charity Well, Gemas, Snake Well and Buckle on the regional areas. So hopefully over time we can build up some more resources on the in the regional areas. All the regional deposits remain open as well from surface. I'd like to jump into the where we're at with the PFS. We're basically on track to put out the PFS in the next quarter. The previous scoping study last year, in October, was based on a resource that was smaller, but that showed substantial potential mining here. So we're talking about, you can see on the right-hand side there, we have starting with close to 500,000 ounces a year, and it's dwindling off to about 450 over a 10-year period. That PFS that we're doing now is on the new resource. Should be better in the production profile is our aim, and we hope to extend it as well. So we see a positive PFS coming forward in the next few months. So that scoping study last year showed total production of 4.3 million ounces. If you're timesing that by your $500 an ounce, pretty simple maths. We aim to improve that hopefully in the PFS. We had annual production in the first 5 years of 473,000 ounces and 430,000 ounces over 10 years. Once again, we aim to improve on that. Our all-in sustaining cost, our operating costs and mining costs basically, we should be in the lowest quartile, so below 1,200 is our target. I think Rob said the average is 1,500. So good profitability. The capital cost is about 900 million, and that'll be further resolved in the PFS. And for us, That puts us in the top 5 Australian gold mines potentially. That's based on the scoping study. So hopefully in the PFS we're going to be grappling for that 3rd spot, somewhere about there, somewhere between 3 and 5 top Australian gold mines. So how do we do that? Basically we've drilled the resource out. We now we're doing the PFSs, designing the plant and all the scheduling, etc. We're doing lots of detailed metallurgical work and engineering. The metallurgical work is basically giving us 93 to 95% recoveries, which is fantastic for this style of ore body. We're currently looking at a 10 million tonne throughput, which is a fairly large gold mine. So some of the questions we're asking of the PFS now is just the final design of the plant. And as you can see, as you can imagine, that's quite a detailed process. The guys are working, or the team is working through that in a lot of detail right now. So the comminution circuit, just how we're going to crush the rocks, will be resolved. The oxidation circuit of the sulfides is the biggest question. We're pretty comfortable, it doesn't matter which way we go. Basically there's the 3 choices: pressure oxidation, bacterial, and an atmospheric oxidation, which is a proprietary thing called Albion. So they're all under assessment, and we'll shortly put out the decision on which way that's going to go. In the end, it doesn't really matter, they all come up with the same result. It's just a capital cost and operating costs that are the main issues. They're all proven technologies used elsewhere in the world in this scale of deposit for gold. And one thing I'd like to explain about the processing, as you can see there, the very simplified diagram on the right-hand side, 10 million tonnes gets crushed, we then float it, and we pull out about 800,000 tonnes, or 8% of that rock. That goes to be oxidised. So it's a much smaller part of the circuit. It's also probably the most expensive part. So it's important that that gets reduced. That gets oxidised and goes back to the CIL tanks. And the other 9.2 million tonnes still contains some of the gold, about 7 or 8%. That goes straight to the CIL tanks, and it's where it gets leached and turned into the gold bars. So it's important to understand that 800,000 tonnes is only 8% of the entire crushed rock that gets the most work done on it. This is just a more detailed design of that plant processing. I won't dwell on that. Basically, as the PFS is put out and we put out further information, we'll make those decisions clear. We're just south of Port Hedland, 85 kilometres by road, major highways, bitumen within 10 kilometres. It's a superb place. We're in like the industrial hub of Port Hedland. Basically, we've got a gas pipeline nearby, we've got overhead power lines that we can tap into. There's a renewable hub being built between Port Hedland and Broome, we believe, which we hope to be able to tap into as well. So decisions in the PFS will be, how do we power this up? So excellent location, so all for the benefit of developing this project. So the value drivers. So basically this is a tier 1 discovery. It'll be a tier 1 development project. We aim to be in the top 5, hopefully the top 3 gold producers in Australia. We aim to be there by 2025. So it's a tight timeline. It's all subject obviously to approvals and getting those through. And the beauty of Hemi is they are thick ore zones. We're not talking 5, 10, 20 metres wide. In some parts of Brolga, the starter pit is going to be 600 metres long, 300 metres wide, all ore in the bottom of the pit. It's the scale of this that blows everything out of the water. The ounces per vertical metre are phenomenal. Basically, generally on an open pit, anything over, say, 1,000 ounces per vertical metre is considered good. Brolga alone is over 10,000 ounces per vertical metre in the top 200 and 6,000 overall to 370 metres. The other deposits range from 2,500 to 4,500 ounces per vertical metre, and in all, over 23,000 ounces per vertical metre. It is just at a different level, and it's all about that scale. Excuse me. So we're targeting the open pitable. That'll be the first 10 to 15 years mine life, we hope. But we're also starting to drill deeper, targeting the underground and as we go forward with that, can we bring the underground in earlier, years 4, 5, 6, and improve on our production profile? One of the benefits of Hemi has been the discovery cost. To be able to discover ounces for less than $10 an ounce, which is well below the industry average, and then have that valued at currently $130 an ounce is part of the business, but the next business is to get it development where we're valued at 500 plus per ounce in the reserve category. We've had rapid growth at Yukon and Eagle to the west in Hemi, and that being our biggest discoveries in the last few months. And we've expanded them at 1.2 million ounces, I think it is, in the last few months. So there's lots of upside just on finding more resources. So our long-term targets is to be a tier 1 producer. 2025 is our aim, second half. We're targeting further increases in resources with lots of drilling. We've currently got about 10 rigs running around. That is targeting near surface, open pittable resources, extending known resources and new discoveries. And one of the things that you do behind the scenes is build your team. We've been constantly building our team from the discovery of Hemi, knowing this is going to be a big deposit. So capability is the big thing on our target. And that's it.
Perfect.
Perfect timing.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Done.
Okay, there we go. And you can go and see De Grey Mining. They are literally next door, booth 14. And right next to them is our next speaker. That is Damien Keys.